This session, we are going to talk about some of the approaches, specifically participatory approaches, when we are trying to understand and get the community to act on issues around food security or food insecurity. I'm starting with food security because food insecurity, when we take one specific location, it may not be the case that it is across that area things are worse. It can have variations. And that diversity makes it both challenging and interesting. Interesting not because people are suffering, interesting because these variations triggers action. And that variation, when those who are experiencing it, if they feel that variation, they realize that variation, if they identify that variation and the solutions, not necessary that a researcher has to go and make recommendations. In research, how many of you do research? Can I have the hands up? Okay, interesting. So a lot of researchers here. How many of you do participatory research? Good. That's also a considerable number. How many of you work with communities? Okay. So take your notebook and a page from there. Write in one line, what do you mean by community? Everyone. What do you mean by community? When you hear the word or use the word community, what does it mean? Hope everyone has scribbled down. Want to speak about it?
For me, community means where we get to feel a sense of belongingness.
Sense of belongingness. Yeah, I was waiting for that. Thank you. Yeah, someone can note down. Help me noting down. That will be very useful. Any of you? Just noting down. So you said belongingness. That's an interesting. Sense of belongingness, right? You want to qualify? What do you mean by that?
It depends on the context.
Depends on the context. Okay. So that's what I wanted to do. Okay. Yeah, please.
Like more of we feeling.
More of
We feeling like
we feeling.
yeah.
All right. That's interesting. We, right? So that's a plurality. Can I say that? Okay. Plurality.
For me, community is a group of people which has shared interest,
Shared interest and
language, culture,
language.
tradition,
So
and it also has homogeneity.
Huh?
Homogeneity.
Okay. Homogeneity.
Yeah.
So homogeneity is a keyword that is coming. Shared knowledge, shared interest, language, etc., etc. Homogeneity, right? Okay, interesting.
Yeah. From community, I mean myself
Before
sorry.
that, I wanted to pick
Sorry.
up one thing there. Sorry. When you say homogeneity, is it possible that all communities are homogeneous?
No, not in most of the cases, but it happens actually whenever we have a close knit community, so we have this.
Okay. So homogeneity, again, that is another construct that we need to discuss little in depth, right? So what do you mean by homogeneity?
Something which is common.
Mm-hmm. Something which is common. If something is common, can it be homogeneous?
It could be one of the attributes of that.
So this word comes from the etymology, if you look at, it is coming from one type. Human beings, Homo sapiens, right? So is a community really homogeneous? Yeah.
I would say actually that one of the values of a community can be the diversity in it.
Diversity. So plurality, now we have diversity as the next word. So homogeneity, it's an important concept. I'm not saying it is not important, but whether all communities will be homogeneous or not is a question to pick up. Yeah.
Okay. From community, I mean myself with others.
Myself with others.
Yeah.
Okay. So is this classroom for my community?
Yes, of course.
How?
So, because like we are here for one common cause, as we all are participant of one short course on food security.
So the uniform factor that brings us together is
Yes.
this classroom is we are studying or trying to study or learn something common.
Common.
Right?
But
Does it mean it is homogeneous?
no. But I'm just adding to it. But apart from this commonality,
Right.
so we all have different purpose to be here. So means like so there are some difference.
So that is the heterogeneity.
Yeah.
So there is homogeneity, there is heterogeneity as well.
Yeah.
Like Jawaharlal Nehru said, unity in
Unity and diversity. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Who else? Yeah.
Like you cannot have a diversity without having some kind of a unity.
Unity is needed, then only you can have diversity.
Not necessary,
Uh-huh.
but there need to be some kind of a shared sense of belief,
Okay,
shared sense
shared
of
sense of-
something common.
Belongingness,
Belongingness, shared
Something
sense
common.
Of, yeah,
Something
something
common,
common is
right?
required. Otherwise,
Okay.
diversity is going to be conflict,
All right.
a divergence.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm now stopping this particular word. So,
So I teach social sciences, sociology specifically,
Uh-huh.
and I teach my student communities of fantasy.
community is a fantasy.
Fantasy.
Interesting. Let us pick it up.
I think community is a mobility and a construction of traits of caste, religion, and thinking.
So community is a what you call construct of various
Traits.
things.
Traits.
This is what you
Yes.
are saying. Okay, again plurality or some of that will cover it. Okay. Anything more? Anything compelling? If not, let us pick up next. Yeah.
I see that, yeah, shared interest, knowledge, language are all important. But I think what really makes a group of people a community is when they share some values. When they share values.
Values.
Like moral
There
values.
is some values that are shared amongst the members, then it
More
becomes
than the interest, more than the, because those other things can be contingent,
right.
but maybe not strong enough to really make a community.
Yeah. So it is quite interesting to look at just the term community. When we say community, several people can talk about community is different. So for some, it is a caste-related community. For some, it can be a religion. For some, it can be a village community, country, for language, students, right? So this, the important thing is that the context determines what it is. So when we are talking about community and community participation, it's very, very critical that we build on that specific context. So we will take another turn on the next. So here, the fantasy word I liked. It is, it is something like the what you call the temperature discussion that we had, because community is a soft construct, right? It is not a hard construct. So we had this flexibility to define it based on the context. So that definition can be slightly different. So it is very loosely defined as a social construct, a set of relationships. That is the philosophical, kind of definition that has been made. And it is not always homogeneous. There are differences of power and access and perceptions. In this classroom itself, if I open up some specific discussion about one point, maybe we may have some 8 or 9 set of opinions emerging. And in qualitative research, we always say that when we talk to around 22 people, then only you can complete the circle of thinking, right? This is what in qualitative research always said that it is not ideas and opinions that we are looking at. We are looking at experiences, lived experiences. So in that lived experiences kind of a thing, to get that is where this idea of homogeneity we need to kind of negate. Because we need to have this heterogeneity for getting a full picture. Otherwise, we may end up, getting only partial kind of image of the situation. Now, it can be described by geography, class, caste, gender, religion, etc. Now, we can also see that, this many times those who say that I work in community, I work with community, sometimes they may be just working with some individuals. Are these individuals forming communities? If they are a collection, they may. Otherwise, we are just working with some individuals. But still, we say that we are working with community. So this is something to be understood. Then sometimes we may just work with a family. And that family, if it is a large family, it can form some specific community, but a family is not always a community. Then we may get into a village community. Then we may get into a larger society. Still, we may say we are working with community. So this micro and macro situations about community is also something very important. Again, within communities we can work with children, women, men, transgender, age old. I mean, different set of workers, different set of people can come. So that is also to be noted. So why community participation? Again, the participation is coming as an example. In participation, there are two kinds of perspective. Broadly, it can be more. So can you think of what is participation, community participation according to you? Please write that. What is community participation according to you?
Voice.
Voice. So community participation is voice. Interesting. Can you bit elaborate?
It's sort of like in a project that's about my community, I should have a voice to be heard and all.
So here, what I hear is, if I'm correct, when you say voice, I hear agency. Is that correct? Okay.
Just
Okay.
adding on to that, like it is an active exchange of ideas and values.
Exchange of ideas and values. So would that become participation? Okay. Actively contributing ideas and values becomes participation. Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
So different individuals which are having different roles come together for a common or shared vision or a goal.
For a shared vision, different perspectives coming together.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely ideas, thoughts, opinions, or maybe a pre-attribute to ownership.
Yeah. Take. That is participation. That is definitely, it's fine. But how?
Like trust on leadership or any moderator. So
What you are saying is for participation.
So yeah, this community participation is a kind of trust on leadership or the moderator or the facilitator.
So you are saying for participation, the condition of leadership is there.
Yeah.
Without that, what happens?
The participation will be there, but I think it is needed. So yeah.
So you think it's a conditionality?
Yes.
Leadership is a conditionality.
Yeah.
I'd like to add that native or indigenous knowledge has to be included, whether we're talking about policy or anything. No, not only knowledge, but indigenous or native knowledge. Yeah.
Original knowledge or
Yes.
organic knowledge.
Yes. Yeah.
Sharing of organic knowledge.
Playing a set of defined role which has been agreed with the community of community members. Defined set of role which has been agreed with
Defined set of roles. Who will define? Define the role, and then they have to put a set of value, and then they have to act. Is that you are saying? Okay.
So taking on board the norms, values, behavior, and aspiration of the people.
Okay. So it's not a fantasy here.
No, obviously it is fantasy about all these things.
Yeah. Right.
It's bringing fantasy into reality is what we should.
Translating fantasies into
I think it's something that was alluded to but not stated clearly. Inclusion. Why community participation?
So those who are in the margin are coming to the central. Then it is participation. Am I correct?
Not only margin, but including everyone.
Those who are excluded. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Coming together to decide for themselves.
Coming together to decide for themselves. So decision making.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything more?
It's just a reflection of a repented economist. I've heard a lot of sharing, and nobody mentioned trading, and I think is the right thing. So community is the complete opposite of homo economicus, and acting not for your own self-interest.
That is one very, very important aspect, because at the individual level we think about ourselves, not us, and when it comes to the community level, the individual goals and individual aspirations are sometimes set aside, and it goes for a common goal, for a greater common good, if I am putting it in the economic language. Yeah. So let us now look at how some of the specific approaches and perspectives are looking at why community participation. So one is, there is a clear understanding that government programs, let us take food security related program, very poor participation of people. So people must be persuaded to use these services. Government machinery is required village level assistance. Keep these words, something important. Then community must participate to help the government programs meet its goals. Help the government programs to meet its goals. Community members are extension of the government structures, and they are supposed to respond to the program design. This is one set of understanding about community participation. Here, the community members are simply beneficiaries. I have not asked everyone here whether you agree with this or not, but the moment, are there any government employees sitting inside? Anyone? Okay, interesting. In the government program, is this the understanding that is represented about why community participation? Deepak?
Yeah, in most of the cases, like whenever we go to village, we have to first find out the people, like how they can help us.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot just approach them and start working on anything.
All right.
So it can be a Mukhya Munda, or it can be a village people.
So in this process, who is the owner? In this approach, who is the owner? Is the government official the owner? No. Is the community owner? Is the government owner? The problem is, in this approach, no one is the owner. Everyone is either beneficiary or servant. So this approach not necessarily help the success of anything, any development kind of approach, or food security, so to speak, or health or nutrition, or any specific outcome. Now, what is the other side of it? The rights-based perspective. So, situation is largely in people's own hands. And people are controllers and prime movers of the change. How is it different from the previous one? Okay. People have right and duty to participate in decision making. It's touching upon both rights and duty. And community provides impetus for systems and services to respond and improve. Communities have resources. Participation is community's vehicle to secure services and organize action. Yeah. So here, these two approaches, are they complementary or are they clashing? Are they complementary or are they clashing? Clashing. But what is a better approach amongst this? This one. But is it fully realizable? So this is where bit of it is, it is more aspirational than doable. So somewhere we have to make this particular approach, we have to position in the government programs in a implementable, actionable manner. Then we will get something like participation, which we discussed now. It's a social process whereby specific groups with shared needs and contexts actively identify their needs, take decisions, establish mechanisms, and act to meet those needs. So, whatever we discuss, we have many of those coming together here. A social process, community participation is a social process whereby specific groups with shared needs and contexts actively identify their needs, take decisions, establish mechanisms, and meet those goals. So, in this context, we will have to look at both the approaches and pick up wherein the ownership and leadership of community is well identified. Now, what are the levels? That is another interesting question too. One is participation in benefits, wherein they are simply beneficiaries. The other one is some activities, meetings and various other things they will participate. So that is some action, level participation. Third is some implementation processes they are part of. Fourth is they are part of monitoring some of the programs. Fifth is they are part of planning and action. And what can be the ideal one? The ideal one can be ownership and participation in all the above levels, all the five. Then, we can say that it is ideal. And including in decision making. If the decision making, the agency part which you are talking about, the voice that you are talking about, if that is not there, the participation will be token. So there are determinants of this or limiting factors of this. One is, what is the willingness, what is the capability, what is the understanding of the community about the specific area where they are supposed to participate. Then the institutional mechanisms that are available to promote and sustain support community participation. So here we will get into some of the process and designs. With this, yeah.
I think one part of participation would be also the contribution part.
Mm-hmm.
The community contribution.
Definitely. The ownership, when it is ownership, their participation, of course, have to be their contribution, their role in that. Yeah, true.
May I just raise one issue that is missing so far, which is that you speak about government, as something that exists above and beyond a specific community. And the problem might be that the scope of a government can involve more than one communities, and therefore there is also an element of possible conflict between the interest, the values, and the needs of different communities. And so what is challenging for me is for me, because I'm an anarchist, so fundamental, is how do you decide the boundaries of the community and the power of a government that is more than one community. So should every community have its own government? And how the interaction between different communities should be regulated or controlled or facilitated.
Thanks for that very important, Anand is going to add something.
I think one of the ways that happens on the field is basically that the number of programs that the government runs and the number of staff that it has, there's always an issue that the variety of programs that it has to implement and the load that every government servant carries is so high that any sort of community contribution in terms of participation or that comes in, it becomes, I mean, it can't come together and work together to establish their own boundaries and help each other to achieve the targets that have been set. So that is potentially one of the ways that it works out.
So the bridging between the functionaries and owners is the important thing that you have been speaking about. And the second, not second actually, very, very important thing is that the diversity and the plurality that we were talking about is the complexity of governance. That is where the participation in democracy is a token participation of one's voting in 5 years. You decide who will govern you and then you leave it to the participation becomes representative participation, and that representative participation, how that representation happens, whether it happens or not, the value propositions and various other things determine in fact the ownership of people of governing the processes becomes tokenistic. So that complexity, if we don't understand at the macro level and also at the micro level, then only we can make the participation happening in the surrounding where we are working. It can be small, it can be large. If we have to make participation working, we need to understand this dynamics and we need to recognize the complexity of this dynamics and this plurality and the competing interests within, and between communities. And the leaders and the decision makers, the functionaries, all have their interests. And all these interests has to come together and play together, and then there needs a consensus to be evolved, and that consensus becomes the net result of what is achieved, wherein what is intended, what is objected is different and what is achieved is very, very different. So that's an important kind of thing to add here. So let us look at some approaches here. It can be for researchers or for even community level actors to facilitate realization of knowledge and action on food security at the community level. So this can facilitate both knowledge and action. That is where we need to see the participatory approaches. Who is at the center is an important question. I forgot to put an animation over there, so the answer is already there, but I wanted to have that writing process, I'm sorry. So the community members need to be at the center, not the researcher or the facilitator. The facilitator is a catalyst. Only a catalyst. I generally provide an example of the role of a spoon when making a tea. The spoon will not take the sugar, the milk or the tea. It just make that specific process of mixing happen and its role is over. So the facilitator's role is something like that. It's a catalytic role. I mean, in the chemistry process, we say threshold energy. The threshold energy concept is that to start the chemical process, you have to have a specific level of energy. So your job is to elevate the energy level to that, and the community, the dynamics will do the rest. That is what is the understanding of participatory processes and participatory theories. So community members at the center. Again, Carlo was talking about measuring. This is not for measuring. That is a very clear distinction. If we are talking about community processes and community level assessment, this is not at all for measuring. This cannot measure. This can only make us know how things are going. So this is about how, not about how much. Yeah, please add.
But
yeah,
the community can participate and act in making measurement possible.
Exactly.
And it's the monitoring part, it's the accountability part.
Precisely.
And there, community has a fundamental
It can
role.
contribute
Community
to the
member.
measurement. It cannot measure.
The best thing for me is that every member of the community understands how important it is to share information.
Exactly.
And has the ability to interpret correctly the evidence that is there.
True. Yeah. So this is for leveraging the knowledge and action. That is what is the process that happens here. So does it make sense for all of us about making participation? If yes, what are the principles? The principles are collaboration, respect, shared knowledge, co-construction, and co-ownership. This is another important thing because many times when we write participatory processes as part of our research methodology, we don't think deeply about what are the kind of values that we are supposed to contribute to the process and what is our limitation as researcher when we are going to conduct a focus group discussion or any other tool that we are going to use. This shared values, the shared knowledge, co-construction, co-ownership with the community. This is where the even the new patent forms of creative what is the license name? Creative Commons and all comes from. It is commons. It's a common knowledge. It's not owned by or licensed by. And then now we need to look at some pillars where to the construct the participatory assessment and action. So one is the broad context of people. The social context wherein caste can come and many other kind of factors can come. Economic context of people will be an important kind of context to look at. The political values that a particular area or a team or a group shares, that's an important contextual factor. Cultural elements including several norms and practices and all that within that prevailing in that community, that is important to look at. The geographical locations are important. Gender is important. So all these contextual factors are something important to look at. Then access to food and nutrition supplies, health services, development programs within an equity and inclusion framework. That is something to understand. Again, there is a problem with the animation. Sorry for that. And sufficiency of food intake and feeding is another kind of context to look at. Episodes of illnesses and other adversities, including disasters and those kinds of climate adverse situations, all that, the response that is happening, these are these will form contextualities. And aptness of knowledge and practices at the community level, that is another context to look at. And finally, how the implementation of policies happening for food security at the ground level is another important context. So these contexts, if we are able to build pillars on these contexts, then the participation can give us very, very valuable and useful set of knowledge and actionable, kind of next steps. And this is generating meso level knowledge. That is another important, factor to understand, because at many research we will get policy analysis will give us what you call the macro level understanding. Individual one-to-one interviews will give us micro level understanding, and community level participatory processes will give us meso level understanding. So if we marry all these processes, then we can have a broad set of what you call very actionable, implementable, and realizable set of knowledge and action coming up. Then some tools. I'm just finishing. I'm not going to get into the details of this. One is, the participatory knowledge we can use as a tool. Told kind of presentation, meaning the oral presentations, has a lot of value, because in our world, a large chunk of knowledge is tacit. It's not written. Many decisions we make, we don't know what rationale we used for making that decision. But we made that decision. There's a knowledge, there is a base, there is an understanding based on which I took, no, I should not go for this, or I should go for this. So that tacit knowledge, how to take it out, is an important process when we are doing both in qualitative research and in participatory research. But in qualitative research, the limitation is that there are a lot of bias that can come in. But in the participatory processes, once you do the initial mobilization very well, then you can get the knowledge without much of, because in the community, in front of the community, the process that one can openly say, the truths or the facts that one can put up openly cannot be as wrong as that can happen in a one-to-one conversation. The strength is there. And there are many other benefits. And then written, oral, written, and then, if they cannot do both, some of them are not, even though they have the capability, they are not confident about doing it. So they may be silent. So ask them to do schematics, drawings, shapes, many ways of presentation can be done. Participatory learning and action is another, kind of process. Again, it's a collective learning process and action process that leads to, in the process itself, learning and action happen simultaneously. So that moves forward. So in food security, we can really use, I'm not saying what is this tool that you can read up. I'm only saying how this can be used for the processes of food security. So when we can do a participatory learning and action about local food culture, for example, travel through the village, understand what is being produced over there, probably you can find the specific solution of a specific kind of lack of food intake. What can be the local solution for that, rather than going for a market solution, can be an identification. Oral history is another very useful way of looking at it, because the old people to middle-aged people, they have a lot of memory in the process of what it was, what was the culture, how things were used, what people used to eat, when the famines happened, what kind of culture changed and how that changed, and how this particular food, for example, in Raebareli of Uttar Pradesh, when I was talking to a 90-year-old person, he was only able to speak Awadhi, and another lady of around 80 years or so, she is also someone who only could speak Awadhi, and I didn't know Awadhi because I am a Malayali. So I got someone who know Awadhi there, and that person was interpreting. It was having its own problems because the person was adding his own masalas to yeah that happens, but still I could gather a large chunk of how potato and tomato was introduced into the food culture of UP at one particular point in time. So, and then that resulted into a documentation of the local what you call rich, vitamin rich and protein rich diets, what used to be there and how to cook them. We came out with a cookbook, around 95 items there, snacks and various other things which used to be there, but it is not there. And resource mapping is another activity wherein transect work and various other processes we realize what are the resources available in that area. Modeling is another, it's not the mathematical modeling, it's a participatory modeling wherein people together make the future models of what they can. Appreciative inquiry in a collective group is another very useful modern technique which could be used in the participatory processes very effectively. Immersive appraisal wherein you stay there, because the first day what people are saying will not be very confident to talk to us. So maybe if you stay with them 2 or 3 days, you will become familiar. Then they open up and you will become one of them, at least for a short time, and you will see what is happening if you stay with the most vulnerable communities in that area. So I was very recently staying in one of the flood affected areas of Darbhanga in Bihar. In one of the houses, it cannot be called house, but I was there with them. I was spending night, I was taking food with them, and that made me to understand the realities in a very, very different manner than I would have done an interview. So that's a lived experience kind of a thing. And then you have object-based storytelling. You show them a photograph and then let them reflect on it. And that gives a lot of very important, interesting reflections. For example, a child or a school, that is cooking midday meal, that will realize a lot of things about hygiene and various other things. Causal loops diagram can help us to understand the causes of specific problems. So from backward causing, this caused this caused this. Finally, when you prepare the map, it will be very complex, but you will have answers for many problems. So mind maps is another wherein planning can be done very well. So you think about a particular thing, feel about it. If you take empathy as an example, if you want to understand the problems of the blind, you think as a blind person, what would happen to you? Then imagine, then try to act as if you are a blind, how would you do? And then that solves the problem for the specific community. That is how the mind map works. And then timelines can help us to understand the historical milestones. Village registers can help us to note down and record various things that is not there in the publicly available data. And then finally, feminist inquiry is a very, very useful tool to interact with women. Understand and build on the problems of women, and then you will have the knowledge, because currently whatever knowledge we have is a patriarchal set of knowledge. Only men formed those knowledge because they don't know and didn't see the world of women. So if you have the feminist inquiry processes, that really helps to make the woman to participate into these processes. And I would thank you there.
So far what you have discussed is all these are qualitative methods, right? So when I was doing my masters, I did my masters from TIS.
Where did you do that?
TIS.
Which was the subject?
Masters in Development Studies.
Okay.
So people used to say that we should concentrate more on the quantitative aspects, just because like you get a job, and like qualitative researchers.
Very interesting.
Yeah. For qualitative
you
researchers,
said it.
it gets difficult to get one, but still I've got a good one. But still, how do you think these are actually very interesting? But how do you see the future of qualitative research, particularly when it comes?
Very interesting question. That is where there is any research, any knowledge generation process cannot be standalone. I don't see participatory process alone can solve the problem. So you have to have for which question, which method is better. I would go by that.
Can I add something? Because I am the culprit of somebody who got a job because he had strong quantitative skills in economics. And after 20 years, I'm repenting. Having been an economist, having been exposed and even engaging and acting incorrect pseudo research based on numbers that gets misinterpreted. So I think I agree with Raman. The solution is always mixed approach in which you have both quantification when is proper to do it, when is relevant to do it, and when it adds something that the qualitative participatory part cannot lead you. When you deal with large numbers, you have to find a way of using statistics to synthesize. However, statistics should be recognized in one fundamental capacity, which is we deal with large group, diverse phenomena. Some of these differences means diversity, other differences means discriminations and inequality. So the use of proper quantitative analysis based on statistics should enable to differentiate the two and never confound the diversity with inequality. And this is the very challenging part.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. This particular thing, that's what I said, the participatory approaches cannot measure, it can validate. So for measurement, you have to have those specific methods which can measure. For assessing, you have to have little nuanced qualitative methods. Just participatory methods may not do. So we need to do this. So it should not be a religion like what is happening around. It should be something like a understanding of which process needs what approach. That is where this we need to actually take off all these walls. Between research methods should look at what kind of knowledge we have to generate, what kind of question are we answering, and for which question what method is used. So if that part is clear, then we will become researchers with value, researchers with ethics. That is what is important. Yeah, one more point there is, it's also, when we say community, for example, Carlo and Jasmine, they are coming from London, a Delhi trip is a field trip for them. Right? But if you are sitting in a district headquarter, for you a block visit can be a field trip. And a block level person, a village visit becomes a field trip. And a community level person, home visit becomes a... See, this differences of levels also form the method of inquiry.
Yeah. So I'm also a student of economics, so know how to deal the data. Most of the people, those who are young researchers, they usually interested in only data. How? Because it is easy to cook data and come up some interpretation. But I really tell you, as far as this India is concerned, the quality of data is relatively poor. You go through any databases, including government or private. I have some bad experiences as I work in one of the best agriculture institute of India, Delhi only. And my boss now is in a ministry, so I know what kind of data is producing. Over a decade, what I have learned as a student of economics, see, data will tell you some kind of some interesting facts, but you need to be verify with the help of participatory or qualitative kind of approaches as far as this India socioeconomic conditions are concerned. What I have observed in Buldelkhand region, which is like most drought prone, which is highly presumed by economists because of rainfall, temperature, and these data. But I tell
Surveys
you,
happen.
yeah, but I tell you, within a Buldelkhand region, people are they are growing sugar canes, they are growing high water intensive crops. So when I appeared at IIT interview, some prominent economist, she asked me, she has worked intensively work on rural development, Manrega, poverty alleviation. So she categorically asked to me, Surendra, did you know this Buldelkhand region is highly drought prone or such, there are farmers are suiciding. That I counterpart, no ma'am. If you go through or visit the real grassroots information, then you will find situation completely different. So I forget that crop. This horticulture department, there's a one scheme, so they promote it. I forget that they use for perfume, to making perfume. Lentil, lemongrass, and another one. I forget that crop name. So that crop was suggested for eastern UP, Gorakhpur, Balia, or where water is relatively higher. The same horticulture department also recommended in Buldelkhand region. So how is this data is manipulating, or how we young researchers also are manipulating data? Whether we are accepting or not, there is a different kind of situation. But definitely, the only I would say, as far as this morning or this after post lunch session, how you are understanding the grassroots reality. That is the most important part. As a being a student of economics, being a student of sociology, or being a student of anthropology, so we have to be visit frequently to identify the phenomena. Like in a PhD or masters, we only visit 2 or 3 days, or even PhD, mostly people visited 15 days or 1 month, the whole PhD period, which is nearly 5 years. So how these students are able to understand the phenomena? They just in a hurry situation, something some now in particularly India, sir, I am taking the time. People are now very very like they are interested to publish in Scopa, Web of Science, or top 2%, this Stanford so-called scientist. So see, but just to imagine how much they are visited to field.
Okay. Yeah.
So that is the reality.
I'll come to that. Yeah. Only one point I would add to, because when we say data, we should not just count digits there. The qualitative research also brings in qualitative data, and participatory studies also can bring in the felt lived experience of community as data. So the data analysis happens over there as well. But yeah, it is so now we have also nuanced methods to look at word analysis and all that. So that is one important aspect, because we always take digits as data. That should change now.
That is so fascinating and so interesting. And I want to add one piece to just this observation that data can be defined in different ways, but any piece of information that you can record, store, and share, communicate, so that people can read, it's important. But the measurement, the quantification, that is where I would say there is a fundamental difference between not physical, natural, biological science and social science, which is often underappreciated. And when you work with agronomy, even medical laboratory or thing, the act of generating the data is already the result of a measurement. You go in the field, you carry your instrument, maybe a scale, maybe a ruler, and you act a measurement, and then you record your data, which is a measure of something. In the social science, in the human behavioral science, that is not how you do measurement. You collect the data, which can be any form of storable, shareable information, and then you have to process them to reach the measure. So there is a fundamental way in which research is operated, and the role of the data analysis is very, very different, because in social science we deal with those soft constraints, as you call it, that are creation of our fantasy. It's our creativity that invent things that are absolutely very fundamental, useful, but it's not the kind of thing that humans have to deal when they interact with nature. So there is a fundamental difference between even the scientific act of the humans towards non-human nature and the scientific inquiry of human when dealing with other humans. So the science is there, the neutrality, the ethics is even more fundamental, but the method needs to recognize that you have to do more than just recording digits. You have to process them, and you have to process them in a way that, as I am trying to say, separate what is relevant from what is not relevant, what is to be recognized as diversity, and what has to be fought, because that's the point. We are all different people, but we must have something in common. We are all human. So how to reconcile these things, that there is nothing more different than a man and a woman, yet we are fundamentally equal. So how do you reconcile equality and diversity? That is the challenge.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. See, related to data, I would like to point out few observation. See, in a present times, data is new oil. You cannot ignore data. That's one thing. No matter you're going to criticize quantitative data, or no matter whether you're going to support qualitative data, you're not going to ignore the data. And if you're going to become a qualitative researcher, you know, we are interpreting qualitative data quantitatively, and we are interpreting quantitative data qualitatively, isn't it? So, you know, we cannot say that I just wanted to focus qualitative aspect and I can't ignore the quantitative aspect. It's not going to work. I mean, if you look, and second thing is related to criticism on the data quality in India. Remember, this is the developing country. Data is 10 years or 20 years of a thing for India. Right now we are getting the data, but collecting the data is a huge task. Look after the census. Collecting the census, it takes 40,000 crores of, you know, the amount of money and amount of work and amount of, you know, human force
brief
required.
Because of the break times.
Yeah. So the point I would like to tell you is collecting the data is huge task. Getting the data is task, but you know, if you are getting a data from the government, you have to believe on the data. You need to somewhere believe on the data, and I think whatever data provided by the government, we have to
only
believe.
one point I would say there, not to believe but to critically examine.
Yeah,
That's
critically,
all.
we can do it certainly. And one more thing, sir, like if we have a data at a you know, quantity data at a country level, we can certainly use some qualitative methods to validate it.
Right.
Yeah, that's all.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hi, thank you. I'm Ajit. I have been studying various aspects of community, particularly marginalized communities. So when you are talking about participatory research, participatory community research, I have two questions. One, how we are going to ensure
or address the caste question in participatory community research process. Within the participatory community research process, because when there is a participation, matter of participation, it has always been seen certain castes have been excluded even within the participatory community research process as well. And the second, when we talk about research, there is something always comes, and we as a researcher has to deal with the ethical question. So what kind of ethical question we are going to deal with participatory community research, and how we are going to negotiate with those? Thank you.
Both are important questions. I think, these two questions we will park for the discussion at 4 o'clock. Thank you. We will park this.